My darling, she said, are you sure you don't mind being a mouse for the rest of your life? I don't mind at all, I said. It doesn't matter who you are or what you look like, as long as somebody loves you. The end.
That was awesome! Please read me another one, Mommy.
Tomorrow, sweetheart. And with that, Mom kissed me goodnight and left. A few minutes later, I switched on the lamp and picked up another book. I stayed up the whole night and finished the entire Roald Dahl set. I was only 5 years and 2 months old. And much like my favorite character, Matilda, I just never stopped reading after that. My parents bought me as many books as I wanted, and I sometimes read 10 books a day. But I had to slow down when I started getting the worst headaches ever. When the doctor came to see me, he glared sternly at my parents. You have to set a reading time limit, and she needs fresh air and exercise. But she just wants to read. She's a kid. You're being terrible parents by letting her do whatever she wants. Wait, what? I had the world's best parents. Turns out, though, the doctor may have been onto something. You see, my parents really loved me. But as I grew up, I started to realize that I didn't have a very normal life. I was homeschooled because my parents thought school was too dangerous for me. Mom and Dad would take me to the playground once a week, and they just kept hovering over me like helicopters the whole time. If I so much as scraped a knee, the two would throw a fit and rush me off to the hospital. Hi, I'm Clara, and this is the story of how my parents almost ruined my life by loving me too much. But before I continue, click like and subscribe, because My Story Animated will give $1,000 to one lucky person who subscribes in the next 7 days. Tell your friends, your sister, brother, and mom to subscribe now. When I turned 12, I started insisting that I had to go to school like every other kid, and the two reluctantly agreed. On the first day of school, I happily skipped out of the car, and I'd only walked a few steps when suddenly I felt myself being dragged back. It was Mom, hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. I don't think you're ready. How about next year? You can go next year. Mom, I'm ready. You're embarrassing me. Let me go. I was really enjoying my lessons and having a great first day. At lunch, a few kids from class asked me to join them, and I was so happy to be making friends. Just then, I suddenly felt someone pull away my food tray. It was Mom, and she was throwing my lunch in the trash. I stared at her in horror as she started spraying the table with Lysol next. What are you doing, Mom? God knows how many icky germs this table has, and the food looks awful. And with that, she just sat down at our table, whipped out a sandwich, and started cutting it up into tiny little pieces. There you go, sweetie. I just wanted to vanish into thin air. I took Mom by the arm and pulled her out of the cafeteria. Mom, listen, I know you're worried, but trust me, I'm fine. You can go now, please. She didn't come to lunch again, but that definitely wasn't the end of it. They were the parents of every teacher's nightmare. If I didn't get the lead in the play, or an A in every subject, or I wasn't on top of the cheerleading pyramid, they'd be at the school the next day to terrorize the teachers and the principal. One day in 9th grade, I was horrified when the teacher handed me back my history report and told me to come see her after class. I'm very disappointed, Clara. Why would a bright child like you copy-paste stuff from Wikipedia? You could be suspended for plagiarism. Wait, what? I opened up the report and saw that it wasn't even close to what I'd written. Arrgh! There was only one person who'd use this ugly font. Dad! I screamed as I burst into his study. I can't believe you wrote my history report. What, sweetie? I was only trying to help. You would never have gotten an A on the stuff you wrote. Thankfully, since the principal knew what my parents were like, she believed me and I was allowed to submit my original work. Just when I thought they couldn't embarrass me more, boy, did they prove me wrong. In 10th grade, I was selected from thousands of contestants to represent my city in the National Spelling Bee. The host announced, and the tiebreaker is a bibliophobia. That was one of my favorite words, a fear of running out of reading material. I spelt it out correctly, and as the crowd clapped, one of the contestants' moms got up angrily. I saw her parents mouthing the spelling to her. There's foul play going on here. She demanded that the organizers pull out camera footage, and sure enough, there were Mom and Dad spelling out a bibliophobia. But I wasn't even looking at them. One of the judges stepped up to the mic and said, "We have no choice but to give the award to the runner-up." I couldn't believe that everyone thought I was a cheater because of my parents. But to make things even worse, Mom and Dad stepped onto the stage and tried to snatch the trophy away from the other kid. This belongs to our daughter. We demand justice. The whole drama was broadcast on national television, and the video went viral. It made me really popular in school, but not in a good way. I was the girl with the psycho parents, which is why I was really surprised when Jake, the guy I'd been crushing on since forever, came up to me one day and asked me out. I was thrilled. I wanted to keep him a secret from my parents, but I knew that wasn't possible. To my surprise, they acted really cool when I introduced Jake to them. They didn't even sit him down for an interview. Jake and I started dating, and we had an amazing year together. I was totally in love, and when prom came around, I couldn't be happier that I'd be going with him. On prom night, as I ran downstairs to meet Jake, I suddenly stopped short when I heard my parents and him talking. Come on, Jake. We've paid you more than enough. Extra for prom, dude. Otherwise, I tell her everything. Tell me what? All three of them turned around to look at me. Mom and Dad looked horrified. Oh well, guess the act's up. Your parents read in your diary that you had a crush on me, and they paid me to ask you out. What? It felt like my world had just come crashing down around me. How could you do that? Sweetheart, anything we do for you is out of love. I just snapped. This isn't love. You guys are toxic and crazy, and I've just had it. And with that, I stormed out of the house. In the fall, I moved away to the farthest college I could find on a scholarship. I even refused to take my parents' money. I felt betrayed and heartbroken and didn't want anything to do with them. I was enjoying my freedom, but I soon discovered I really needed a job. One day at college, I saw a job poster for a nanny on the bulletin board, and I made the call. The next day, I was driving up to a huge mansion. Mrs. Richard, a wealthy businesswoman and single mom, asked me a few questions and told me I was hired. I come home late from work most days, so all you have to do is give Dana some company. She's a very easy child. You won't have much trouble. And with that, she rushed out of the room and was gone. As I walked out in the hallway, I found a cute little 8-year-old standing with her arms crossed over. Oh, hi! You must be Dana. I'm Clara, your new nanny. She looked clearly unimpressed. What kind of a grown-up wears a Hello Kitty shirt? And I don't need a nanny. I can take care of myself. And with that, she ran off to her room and slammed the door shut. I could see that this was going to be anything but easy. Dana was a really smart kid, but she was so bossy. I wasn't allowed to sit on her bed. I could only put my bag on the floor. She didn't want me to touch her toys. She wanted Chinese every day at 6 p.m. sharp. The kid was a little dictator. One day I told her that we were going cycling in the park, and she turned up her little nose at me. Nuh-uh, not happening. I was beginning to lose my cool. Dana, you're supposed to listen to me, and I say we're going cycling. No, you're supposed to listen to me because you work for me. For your information, I don't work for you. I work for your mother. Suddenly, Dana turned to me angrily. Oh, do you see my mother anywhere? Here's some news for you. You're not gonna. Unless you make an appointment with her secretary 2 days before.
Guess you're stuck with just me.
And with that, she stormed off to her room. For the first time, I felt really sorry for her. I realized that no one paid much attention to the poor kid. When I quietly crept into her room, I found her snuggled up on her beanbag, reading a book. What you reading?
Oliver Twist. Charles Dickens writes really sad stories, but I still love them.
And from that day onwards, we bonded over books and became really good friends. We'd spend hours reading in the public library or having picnics in the park and discussing books. And we both went to an amusement park together for the first time in our lives. We had the most amazing day, taking all the rides and stuffing our faces with ice cream. Dana was the lead in her school play, and I spent hours practicing with her. A day before the play, as I tucked her into bed, she looked at me sadly.
I wish Mom had the time to come see me.
It just broke my heart. I decided I was somehow going to make this happen. I snuck into Mrs. Richards' study and left a note marked urgent on the table. The next day, when I went to pick up Dana for the play, I couldn't see the note anywhere. I kept calling Mrs. Richards' secretary, but her number was constantly busy. There were still 2 hours to go. I had to go down to Mrs. Richards' office myself and talk to her. As I barged into her room, I stopped short when I realized she was having a meeting.
What's the matter? Is something wrong with Dana?
No. I was wondering if you read my note about her play?
I did, and as you can see, I don't have the time. Can you leave now, please?
Suddenly, I felt really angry. You have to make the time for your daughter. She's amazing and you're just missing out on everything. She looked livid and had her secretary make me leave the office. I was pretty sure I was fired. Feeling bummed out, I slipped into the auditorium just in time for the play to start. Some 10 minutes into the performance, someone came and sat on the empty seat next to me. To my shock, it was Mrs. Richard. As Dana stepped onto the stage and started delivering her lines, I glanced at Mrs. Richard, and she was in tears. At the end of the play, she was the first one to jump from her seat and clap. Dana stood in complete shock as her mom ran to hug her backstage.
Darling, you were so good!
Mom, I can't believe you came! You saw all of it?
Yes, all of it!
As the two hugged each other tight, I realized something. I really missed my own parents. And even though they could sometimes really cross a line, I never grown up feeling neglected. They'd always been there to cheer me on and love me. In their own crazy way. I went back home that weekend, and my parents and I made up. They apologized for everything they'd done and promised to respect my boundaries. I'm still away at college, but we visit each other every weekend, and we have a really good time together. Of course, I've introduced them to my favorite little bookworm and best friend, Dana.